Hi everyone, I'm Bonita from Pennies to Dollars and welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to talk about how I challenge the norm. I challenge the norm for many reasons, and most of them are because of the way that I was raised. My parents were born in 1929 and 1931. They were raised during the Great Depression. And for many people, their grandparents were from the Great Depression, but my parents were from the Great Depression, and they raised us with some of those same philosophies and normal behavior that they grew up with. And it became normal for me. In fact, I grew up where mom and I would wash our hair on Saturday. Saturday only, once a week, only on Saturday. And mom would put our hair in rollers. I still only wash my hair maybe twice a week, and that's all that it needs. But that was normal growing up, because when she grew up, you had to heat the water, you had to bring the water in, and they were very saving. They were very conscious of resources like using water or using any type of fuel. So that was something that was very normal. We didn't have heat except for in our living room, and when we went to bed, Dad would shut it off. When we went to bed, we had no heating in our bedrooms. Mom would pile so many blankets on me that I had trouble rolling over. We had no air conditioning in the summertime. And we would get ice on the inside of our windows. That was normal. And last year, in the winter, I also got ice on the inside of two of my windows here in Kansas in 2023. So that was something that was normal. And I know a lot of the things are not mainstream, but when you've grown up in rural Kansas and this was your upbringing, I really don't think much about that. And so that's why I wanted to share it with you today. If you've ever had to start completely over, maybe a divorce, maybe moving, something that affected you financially, you have to start over not only financially, but you have to start over mentally. And you have to determine your priorities. You have to determine what you want to spend your money on and what in your life just isn't important and it doesn't rank on your spending money chart. When I grew up, education was stressed in our household. So my mom went through high school and that was it. My dad dropped out his sophomore year in 10th grade to help on the farm. And it was important to me when I raised my children to send them to college. And I've shared this with some of you before. I paid for all 6 of them to go to 4 years of school and get their bachelor degree. And I wanted them to have that stability. I wanted them to be independent. I wanted them to be successful. And so, in my opinion, it was important. It was important for all of them. And many of them have gone on to get masters, PhDs, Juris Doctorates, and they paid for that beyond that point, or they got scholarships that paid for that based on their abilities. So when I put out my video here a while back talking about my extreme budget, I was very vulnerable. I knew there would be some comments about it. I want you to understand that when I grew up, my dad didn't believe in health insurance. He didn't believe in car insurance except for liability. He didn't believe in life insurance, accident insurance. We didn't have any of those insurances. And he always told me people could be overinsured and spend all of their money and have nothing to show for it. And so I grew up with that instilled in me. And I spent a lot of my life without health insurance. And I did fine. I just paid private pay. And I really thought twice before I went to the doctor. I made good decisions about when to take my kids to the doctor, but I had the money to pay for it because I didn't believe in insurance. I do have health insurance now through my employer, but I could go back to no health insurance very easily. I would have to pay maybe a little more for my medication or get it at a different place so that it would be less expensive. But I could totally go back to that very easily because that was normal for me. I also showed no house insurance on that video, and several people asked me about that. I've never had house insurance. I'm almost 58 years old. I was questioned about what if there's a fire? What if there is a tornado? What if there is hail damage? I have a metal roof that I put on several years ago. It took me so many years to find someone that would even come out here to put it on for me. And I absolutely love it. It is super quiet, super insulated. We can't hear it hail, we can't hear it rain, and we sleep upstairs. So I love my metal roof. I'm not worried about hail damage. Also, tornadoes have come straight through here many, many times, and they will always jump my house. They might not the next time, but there's a little dip that my house is in. I cannot get a signal for a different cell phone company. I cannot get a signal for a different internet company, but it's come through as close as across the street and ripped every single electrical pole down and snapped it in half and still jumped my house and didn't touch it. So I'm not super worried about that. We don't have a basement. We don't have anywhere to go if there is a tornado. As far as safety concerns go, but this house was built on sandstone and a lot of it is crumbled away. It wasn't even built on a cement foundation, and I've shared that with you before if you follow me. So some of my floors are uneven. I'm not even sure if I could get it insured. At one time, I did have someone come by and they wouldn't insure me because of my roof. It is now replaced. I don't think they ever even made it in the house to look at the floor, but the floor, I'm sure they would have a problem with it. This house was my grandparents', so I did get it from them. However, I just spent $4,200 on getting the well fixed. I spent $9,000 on the roof. A lot of that you might consider upkeep, but during that time we bought two businesses. One we paid cash, one we paid off in half of the time, put all 6 kids through college. So I have spent a good chunk of change in my life. I haven't been just sitting here pack ratting money because the house was given to me. I used it in other areas that I saw was important that could have probably bought this house 2 or 3 times. In fact, the value of this house is probably not much of anything. My total taxes for the entire year are like $300, and that includes farmland I have, the property I live on. It's hardly anything. I don't even know that they count this house as being worth much. It's more the land that it's on. So I apologize for the sun glare that keeps coming in the window. My backup plan would probably either be to put a log cabin here, live in my RV. We have a 1-room cabin with no electricity, no bathroom. That would be an option if we needed to. So I have other backup plans that I could do if something did happen. Everyone makes their own choices that makes sense for them. So some of these choices I know would not make sense for many people, but they've made sense for me and they've gotten me this far. And I see no reason to change those ideas. At the end of the day, we all have to do what is best for us and for our family and our living situation. I only have liability insurance on my car. And here a couple of months ago, a deer jumped in front of me and it did over $2,700 worth of damage. But again, the way I look at it is I've gone years and years and years with liability only. If I'd been paying full coverage that entire time, I would have paid way more than $2,700 and it would have affected my insurance and it would have gone up. When it's liability, they're not going to cover it anyway. So I just pay it and move on about my business, and my insurance stays the same. Out here, there's very little chance of many collisions other than a deer. I grew up with us farming with old tractors that would break down a lot, no cab, no air conditioning. My dad would wear a mask like you see people wearing for COVID, like the N95s in 100-degree weather, because he had allergies so bad that he had to wear one of those because of the dirt and the dust. Um, we would take those old water cans up there that were made out of metal that had a little bit of insulation on the inside, but it wouldn't keep anything cold. And by the afternoon, all of your water was warm. But Dad always said at least it was wet. And so he was fine with that. Like I said, it's all what is normal for you. I do challenge the norm. I went into Walmart the other day and I was aghast of how much everything cost. I could not believe it. I haven't paid prices like that through this whole experience of these last few years where things have been rough. I haven't paid anything close to what Walmart is charging. And that's because I shop frugal. I shop sales, I shop clearance, I shop markdowns. And I went in there and I think there was a 2-pound thing of ground sausage for almost $8. While the last several I bought came from the Amish discount store and they were $4 for 2 pounds. So I just couldn't even believe paying that amount of money. And yet I watched people just walk through and pick it up like it was normal. For me, that isn't normal. So I just wanted to share with you that I may have a different way of thinking than a lot of people do, but it's because I guess I challenge the norm. I don't look at what everybody else is doing and think that that is the way I'm supposed to live. I've never lived like everyone else does. I've always lived differently. Everybody knows that, and no one has a problem with it because they know that's just Bonita. That's just how Bonita lives. My husband doesn't have a problem with it. And he grew up less frugal than me. He lived in the city for a lot of years before we got married. And he has adapted to this lifestyle so easily, and he loves it. So challenge the norm. Look at what you can do to make it easier on yourself in any way that you can. I have tons of videos on cost-saving tricks and tips that I give. Many of them wouldn't be maybe what you would choose, like the ones I talked today. You may not choose to be less insured. You may not choose to be shopping the discounts and the markdowns. It's totally each person's choice on what they are comfortable with, what they are used to. You may choose to wash your hair every single day. But these are just some of the things that I wanted to share with you today that are normal for me. I don't question my lifestyle because it's been like this for so long, and I feel like it makes sense for me. So I hope you've enjoyed this little look into my thought process on how I save money. And please share with me your thought process on areas where you feel you can save money. We're all here to help each other and give each other ideas. Have a great day.